The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Shady Rays. SGPN is teaming up with Shady Rays for Shady May. Get 50% off your Shady Rays using promo code SGPN and then go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500. We're also brought to you by the SGPN Mesh Shorts. Just in time for the summer. Go out, hit the beach, hit the breezeway, wherever you're at, because some people aren't actually, a lot of y'all are in landlocked states, so you can't go to the beach, but you can go out to your cornfield or whatever it is you got out there with your SGPN mesh shorts. Use promo code shorts SHORTS at store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com for 10% off. Yes, sir. We are back for another edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. No me, no the voice, no the guys. Me, Really Real, Villain Real. Terrell from Junior here at your service. And congratulations. I want to clap it up because congratulations to everybody who laid minus 600 with the Celtics. You cashed your bet. Yes, minus 600 Celtics to win the series. Great job. I am so proud of you all very so much. However, those that felt like that they were better and that they knew something and that they could trust the Celtics and they decided to lay any number of games with the Celtics, they did not cash. And for you, I have nothing because you should have known that. But for the people that laid minus 600 with the Celtics, congratulations. I'm so happy for y'all. Amazing time. All right. We are previewing the Eastern Conference Finals, and it is so funny because this is what year, including before I took over as host, this is year 3 that I'm doing an Eastern Conference Finals preview. And this is the same Eastern Conference Finals in 2 of the 3 years that I've done it. All right, Scott Studio Rochelle. Scott, what's going on?
I like how you said you took over, like there was a power struggle, but you eventually won the hosting responsibilities for the
It
show.
was
I like how that.
we had actually, so just full transparency, so everybody knows what happened. So there was actually like the long night, and it was crazy because you had on one side Rich Fat Baby McKee and all of his goons and all of his everything, and then you had us, the coalition, and we were there and we were fighting and we were outnumbered. I mean, Rich Fat Baby had Dan Titus, ZB, all of these other things, but the defector Munaf came over to our side, and we won the war. The long night. It was very, very crazy. And then we won the power struggle that was, and Rich Fat Baby McGee ran off into his own other thing.
Yeah, I am so into drama that I have no clue what the hell you're talking about. I just showed up for work and I ended up on the shows. But yeah, nice to be back here. Feels good coming off of the sweep that I had in Game 7. We're going to get into it in a second, and we're going to introduce an avid Sixer fan, so we brought him on to talk about the actual game yesterday. But yeah, I just faded the Sixers in a Game 7 with Doc Rivers and James Harden. Really self-explanatory. I had the team total under. Shout out to them for scoring 10 points in the third quarter. And I had an alternative points prop under with James Harden. However, I did end up losing a 20-1 parlay because I threw in PJ Tucker unders in there, which probably was not a good move. But besides that, though, I called the game pretty well. And as Terrell said, I mean, the Celtics, once again, congratulations. You beat a team you were supposed to beat. In fact, you made it significantly more difficult than it ever should have been, but still survive in advance, I guess. So pretty good overall episode for me, but I do wish I trusted my instincts and put Tatum rebounds instead of Tucker under in points. But, that's a separate story.
All right. And then we got my guy, Etienne analyst, Adam Rosenberg. Adam, you actually... I actually don't. I feel like your love for the Sixers is like my love for the Knicks, which is not any love at all whatsoever. But we're loyal.
He's honest. He's honest.
It's pragmatic and honest.
Yeah, and so I mean, I will just toss it over to you, but I will mention a couple of things before I toss it over to you because again, this is hilarious. And honestly, I was like a kid in a candy store because one way or another, I thought it was going to be a pretty hilarious ending of how this series ended. So in a Game 7 where you have to win to make it to the next round, and you can finally make it and beat Boston and go to your first conference championship game. their first conference championship game. Joel Embiid was 5 for 18, 0 for 4 from 3, 15 points, 8 rebounds. You had James Harden, who was the second best scorer, who was 3 for 11, 1 for 5 from 3, 9 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. The leading scorer for the team was none other than the person that's gotten roasted probably the most out of anybody in this team, and that is Tobias Harris with 19 points.
Ironically, I actually liked Tobias Harris going into yesterday's game because his Game 7 history was not nearly as bad as James Harden's and Joel Embiid. But yeah, you didn't mention, by the way, with Harden's 9 points, PJ Tucker had 11, and he played 21 less minutes than James Harden. I don't know if you want to have
James
that
Harden still
conversation.
managed to have 5 turnovers to go with that, to have his hand on the ball as much as he did, including that very reminiscent of the I want to get out of Houston turnover, which was right around the beginning of the second half, where he just threw it out to the third row of TD Garden and just kind of looked like disinterested in everything.
And he was also the first basket scorer. He had the dunk in the first 40 seconds of the game, so he scored 7 points in the final 41 minutes.
Insane. All right, Adam, I will kick it over to you for thoughts on the Sixers series. But before we do that, I got to talk to you about Shady Rays and Shady May. Shady Rays is teaming up with SGPN for Shady May because not only do you get an amazing 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses, but you have a chance to win $500. How can you do that? I'll tell you. You just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady and take your receipt there, enter it into the contest, and you'll have a chance to win $500 during the Shady May contest. And for our international listeners, Shady Rays has you covered as well with shipping to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. So check out our contest and check out shadyrays.com, promo code SGPN. We also have, when you use your shades, you can get some nice shorts from our merch store. We have mesh shorts in the store for whatever you need them for. Store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com, and you can use code SHORTS for 10% off. That is store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com, code SHORTS. All right, Adam, I will kick it over to you. What are your thoughts on the travesty that happened last night?
All right, I'm just going to go right to the hammer. Joel Embiid is the problem. Hi, I'm the problem. I'm Joel Embiid, and I'm tired of this, and it's stuff that Sixers fans may or may not want to hear. But there's a whole collection of guys that have gotten worse when they have played with Joel Embiid over the last 8 years. Those include, and this is just when you look at the metrics of how people have performed. Jimmy Butler performed worse. Toby Harris performed worse. Ben Simmons got lost and decided to start playing Call of Duty instead of basketball. James Harden got worse. Doc Rivers arguably got worse. Al Horford got worse. It's the consistent variable has been Joel Embiid. And so the problem that we have here is that you cannot do Morey ball and have a center that struggles to run up and down the court. I'm not denying anything about how great Joel Embiid is as a player, but I think that this Sixers team, a Joel Embiid-led Sixers team, this is it. They are as good as a pre-processed Sixers Embiid-less team that also lost to the Celtics in a Game 7 in the second round that started this whole thing. So, look, there's a couple different paths that are going to happen for this team. Either the most likely one, I think, is everything stays the same. I think actually James Harden comes back. I think Doc Rivers comes back because Joel Embiid clearly loves him. He's Doc Rivers is overseeing the 3 best years of Joel Embiid's career, including his MVP year. Like, if he was going to be gone, Joel Embiid would be the one to say he's gone. I think that that's the most likely scenario. The scenario that I would want, they find a way to get Doc to say, nah, I'm good. Maybe he goes and coaches Detroit or something like that. And former Sixers assistant, Monty Williams comes over, kind of changes things. We move a lot of things around. The nuclear scenario, which is unlikely to happen, is everything gets torn down and you start from square one. It's the problem that this team has is that it seems very, very satisfied with performing at 75% versus 100%. They haven't even won a division over the Celtics. The Celtics have them across the board. And just yesterday was, they had a lot to think about during a 7-minute stretch where they didn't score a point in the third quarter. I'm sure that they had tons to think about of whether or not this is working, and it's not working, and getting Dame isn't going to change that. Running everything through a 5 that just wants to hold on to the ball probably is not the way to do this, but I don't know. I'm not Josh Harris. I'm not Daryl Morey, But if it was me, I would blow the whole thing up because it's Joel Embiid is the problem. That is my therapy.
All right.
That's
No,
it. It's just
I'm
it.
glad
It's
you were
just how
able
it
to
is.
get that out. I'm glad you were able
Yeah,
to get that out. It sounds like that was sitting and building for an incredibly long amount of
It
time.
really, well, it is. Everyone in denial of it.
And I'm not on the same thoughts that is Joel Embiid, but I do think that they need to actually allow themselves an overhaul and some type of overhaul, not necessarily in terms of players, but in terms of personnel. I think the front office, I think that the coaching staff, I think they just need fresh eyes. Sometimes fresh eyes is all you need in this business and a lot of business. Sometimes you need a new pair of fresh eyes, and they can come in there and make something really big happen. And I mean, it just seems like now is the time that if you want to be a coach, that you want that if you are a coach and you're looking for a job, this is the time because you have two other MVPs that are looking for coaches, potentially a third. We'll see what they do. If they fired Doc Rivers, they would have fired him by now. It's 11,
They would
17
have.
on the East Coast.
I think they're going to
They would
try.
have fired
If
him by
anything, they
now.
try to get him to. They would try to get him to say, "Hey, I'm resigning because I want to do something." I mean, he would be gone by now. Like Joel wouldn't be allowed to say he's my guy. Like without that.
Yeah, so sometimes you just need a new pair of fresh eyes. I think that was what it was for the Warriors. Warriors got Steve Kerr in there, fresh eyes. Steve Kerr brought a whole new system and things worked out. Could be the same for Joel Embiid. Yeah, I really don't have any thoughts. I mean, it was a game 7. It was either Boston or James Harden and Doc Rivers. Like it was, so I really don't have
posted
any
that
thoughts.
meme.
Yeah, I was gonna say 17 and 33, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the record that's worth mentioning now?
What is that? Is that
That's
his
Doc
record?
Rivers' record in series clinching games in his career.
Wow.
He's 17 and 33.
Oh,
It's-
oh crap! I did not know.
Well,
That.
you had the meme. It was like this is kind of a joy of all the worlds coming together, and it's the guy pushing the button that says James Harden and Doc Rivers in a game 7, and it was just perfect. I mean, but can you blame Doc Rivers for yesterday? That's the thing. I mean, like
no, that's what I was actually going to get into because he's 17 to 33, so that's the record you mentioned. The fact that he's lost 10 game 7s, which is the most of any coach in NBA history. And yet, I was watching, a couple of comedy skits out there. I know Mark Phillips, for example, is a well-known comedy guy, and he had a skit on Doc Rivers talking to the team in the post game. And he basically said, they're going to blame me. I don't know what you want from me. None of you are hooping. Like, I don't know what he was supposed to do. And B didn't show up. He went 5 for 18. Harden once again had 9 points. He got outscored by PJ Tucker. At some point, coaches coach and players play. And I know that in previous years, you could argue adjustments weren't there. And you could blame Doc for maybe not making enough adjustments. I don't know what adjustments you can make when nobody on your team can hit shots. Your entire team is predicated on 2 guys running endless pick and roll, and neither guy can shoot for roughly the final game and a half, game and a quarter. Because once again, that fourth quarter, they scored 1 point in the final, scored 3 points in the final 5 minutes and 56 seconds. That you could blame Rivers for because Embiid didn't get the ball enough, but then at the same point, he's 7 feet tall, 200 plus pounds, arguably 300 pounds. Maybe he should demand the ball when things aren't going his way, which is another issue. But at the end of the day, I do think in this particular case, I'm not going to blame Doc because both Harden and Embiid vanished and combined for 24 points. And you're not going to win when that happens. But I do have to at least acknowledge, based on historical record, Doc Rivers might be arguably the least clutch coach of all time because he has a winning percentage once again of roughly 33% in series clinching games. It's almost there, but for yesterday's game, I can't really blame him when only 3 guys show up and it's not including any of your star players.
he's just I mean, sorry, go for it.
No, go ahead.
Well, it's sort of like where they were when they had Brett Brown and they moved on from him. Like Brett Brown's not an X's and O's coach but he was a good uncle to get you. He made you think that a 11-win team was probably a 50-win team because it was just fantastic to watch this guy be the fun uncle over this entire team. But like Doc Rivers is kind of what he is on this. And it's just, he's historically mid and this Sixers team is historically mid. Like Doc Rivers' biggest success is when he inherited a incredible big 3 when he was at the Celtics. So
and
like
you can argue he underachieved.
And you could argue he underachieved. They only got it once. Like let's talk about. I mean, yeah, but when your big guys don't show up, and I think that yesterday's game was actually the first time that I noticed in the I mean, other than earlier in the series when he came back in game 2, it was the first time that I noticed that he actually didn't look as great on his knee, because he seemed to be hesitating a lot to look for reads when he could have just like be strong do your thing, be strong and just keep like pounding on under the net. And instead he was looking for second reads and he was constantly turning the ball over because he was moving slow. And that's the first time that I noticed, and maybe because it was such a clutch game, that the knee was actually bothering him. But again, back to the big thing with Joel Embiid is it's always something. It is always something. So
Doc Rivers has been coaching since 1999 as a head coach. He has, 12 math in public, 15, 24 seasons under him. He's won 1 championship. Are those other 23 seasons a failure? No, because he got the 1 championship and he learned and he continued to learn.
I was going to say, he learned stuff.
He learned all of those seasons, all of those other 23 seasons he learned. And even though the championship came in the middle and then nothing came after all this time, it is not a failure. It is not a failure.
So I'm just going to ask, I compared him in hockey terms to Bruce Boudreau, and I know that Adam definitely
liked
that.
I loved that reference.
I'm going to throw another one out there.
Yeah, that was an amazing reference. Oh my
Terrell has
gosh.
no clue what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, Bruce.
Is he the NBA version of Jim Boeheim?
Oh man, as a Syracuse guy, I mean,
I'm just gonna ask because Boeheim has the one title because Melo walked through the door. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean,
and are those other 100 years of Boeheim a failure?
No, but we've known for the last 5 years that we needed to get Boeheim out of there. That's actually a way better. No one is yelling, Doc in the same way they're yelling Bruce, but
I would say at least Doc can drive, but I don't know if I can.
I would say it's pretty accurate. Like Jim Boeheim kind of like, I mean, that's the thing with Doc Rivers is like, and look, he made adjustments at times in the playoffs, but generally speaking, Doc Rivers' strong suit has never been, hey, here's how I'm going to take a second unit and work them in and stagger them in. Like the only thing you ever had to do with Harden and Joel was figure out a way starting last February to stagger them so that everyone else around them gets better. That actually is what you need to do. Instead, it was always hockey line change style of like, cool, who's our 5 who are in now? All right, cool. And then Joel's going to check in at the end of this third quarter and we're going to kind of go from there. And it made capping them pretty easy because you knew exactly what was going to happen. Like you could easily fade the Sixers every third quarter. But that's the thing. Like, yeah, it's not to take away from everything that Doc Rivers has done, but whether it's finding a coach that has some sort of like, I think it's the fresh eyes. It's the fresh eyes and some of these guys who have seen things a little differently. Like the Sixers generally don't draft guys that are within that wheelhouse of, hey, this guy's a big upside. Instead, they draft role players that had always seen, but then they finally changed that up with Maxey. Like lean into that. I mean, I've just seen enough of Isaiah Joe and Charles Bassey and some of these guys that I think could have been built into solid dudes for us go to other teams. And instead I'm watching Doc Rivers do hockey style line changes with Joel Embiid, who consistently wants the ball more, but then slows down the pace of play, slows down everything else. And then goes to Twitter to talk about why he should be MVP. I'm just glad I don't have to hear about that anymore. He got his MVP. Next year, I do not want to hear about Joel Embiid needs to be MVP again.
Yeah, I just want to make a couple points. I'm not going to spend much time on it because I know we are here, of course, to preview the next series. But
the winners.
Yeah, first things first. You mentioned the draft. You know what looked really good with the Sixers yesterday? Jason Tatum. What looked really, really good. I'm curious how Markelle Fultz is enjoying his offseason vacation. But yeah, Philly had a chance to draft him. Of course, they didn't do it. You mentioned Isaiah Joe. He was also, a solid role player, turned into one at Oklahoma City. But the point is, Philly has definitely had opportunities where they've had good supporting cast guys in the building. They just don't let them develop. And shout out to a guy who plays for my favorite team now, Mikal Bridges, who I think would have been pretty useful.
Yeah. And I thought that's where you were going originally. Instead of Tatum,
I was going to, but then I remember, Tatum also was a guy who dropped 51 on your head, and he could have been in Philly. So there are a couple of, spots there where Philly drafted the right guy at the time. They just flipped one of them for Zaire Smith, and I don't know which country he's playing basketball in at the moment. But still,
well, he had a peanut allergy, and that just derailed his entire career.
Either way, point is that they could have always used a very good defensive wing guy, or at least a third option. They haven't really had many great defensive wings in the past, which were in the building, but they didn't exactly have it. But Embiid, the last point I'll mention, I'm not sure he can be the best player on a championship team, and it's going to sound harsh because he just won the MVP. However, This season, he's averaged 33.1 points per game in the regular season. He averaged 23.7 in the playoffs. That's a 9.4 points per game drop off, which is the largest by an MVP in NBA history.
Wow.
Just going to throw that out there. His point total dropped roughly 10 points from the regular season to the playoffs. And the quotes after in the post game, which I briefly want to mention, you can't say that. I know that some of it was taken out of context. You can't say, we need other guys because James and myself can't do it alone at any point in that press conference when you combine for 24 points in a Game 7. You can't say that. I'm just going to throw that out there. And Lillard, I know, has been linked to joining the Sixers. When he retweets the quote with the caption, huh? That's probably not a good sign that Lillard wants to play with Embiid. You can't say that, especially within an hour after losing. You can't indirectly or half-ass throw your team under the bus when you and Harden did not show up for a Game 7. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. So, because they're going to keep talking and talking and talking, and I have to leave.
That's how I want.
Thanks for joining the SGPN
Talk
Sixers
Five.
podcast. Yeah, like that's
Talk Five is the country's #1 modern matchmaking service that's designated to help you achieve relationship success. Here's how it works. Talkify has matchmakers to meet with you and find out what you're looking for in a partner. They do all the hard work for you. They screen candidates, they do background checks, video interviews. They ask the tough questions that are too awkward for a first date. So Talkify is so committed to helping finding your match that 80% of their clients find their person within the first 12 matches. They are now offering 20% off to our listeners when you become a client. When you become a client at talkify.com/SGPN. That's Talkify, TAWKIFY.com/SGPN for 20% off when you become a client. Talkify.com/SGPN. All right, let's talk about the two teams that are actually still in the playoffs. And we have, for the third time in 4 years, the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat are meeting up in the conference finals. Looking at a series winner, Boston is a -525 favorite to win the series. The Heat are +400. Series spread 2.5, -2.5 for Boston is +110, -130 for +2.5 games for Miami. We can even take that a little bit further. Miami +1.5 games is +160, and Boston -1.5 games is -195. You have I thought I had over. There we go. Series game is 5.5, -210 for the over, +170 for the under. Scott, I will start with you.
This feels
of what I said.
Yeah.
What is the bet that you automatically looked at and said, I have to go place this?
My initial thought was going to be something involving the Heat plus the number of games because they went to 7 last year, and I think that Mazzulla is a worse coach than Udoka. So I think the argument would be the Heat plus the games, but in reality, I kind of treated this series at first glance like how I treated the Celtics and Sixers series. I looked at the teams and said Boston is clearly the better team on paper. I don't think it's particularly close. However, the one issue that I had with Boston going into that Philly series is the fact that I think Mazzulla is a bad coach. I don't think he's a good coach, and I do think that if they end up losing to Miami, Boston might have some problems because Mazzulla, I think, did the bare minimum to keep his job next year, and we'll see what happens. But I do think that Boston's got the better team, like the Philly series, but Mazzulla got out-coached by Doc Rivers for roughly 4 games out of 7, and that's not a good look, especially with Spoelstra being the best coach in the league by a wide margin. I think we agree on that, right? Spoelstra's the best coach in the league?
Yeah.
Terrell, do you agree with that?
Top
3, top 2.
Yeah. He's up there. It just feels like Spoelstra gets the name value of being like Popovich. Everybody's gonna say Greg Popovich.
I think Spoelstra
gets the most. He gets most out of the little. Yeah.
I think it's
easily
territory. But go on. That's not what we're talking about. Go on.
Point is, Spoelstra's clearly the better coach, and I don't think it's close. So you're assuming that if you have a battle of talent versus a battle of game planning and adjustments, there's going to be some, push and pull with both sides. So I'm going to lean to the Heat plus the games here because we just saw it go 7. I think last year's Boston team was better than this year's Boston team personally. But I do think that based on what I've seen with these teams and how they've been performing, I think Boston's going to win the series, but I think it's going to go to 7 again. The only difference is, of course, game 7 being in Boston instead of being in Miami. But I just think that Boston is the better roster, but they tend to no-show games, and they're a very pretentious team. They think and they know that they're better than you, so they don't think they have to try all the time. And as a result, they let some upsets happen along the way, like game 1 against Philly, for example. They thought they won the game before the game was even played. And as a result, they let an inferior team sneak up on them. And I believe Boston led the entire league in most double-digit favorite outright losses in the entire league because, once again, they thought they won the game before
Oh, the
it was
Utah
even played.
Jazz stat. Yeah, the Utah Jazz stat. I
The,
love. Yeah,
the
I love
reverse
that stat.
Jazz stat. When they were
I love-
favored by double digits, they lost.
No,
the
no,
most
no.
times.
This is the original Jazz.
Oh, the
stat.
original. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
okay.
is the original. But like, people don't know, but we were fading them. We've been tailing them, fading them, depending. You know what? They're just a really good team. Just know that they're a great team to bet. You know when to fade them. You know when to back them.
Yeah.
But yes, and just 32. I believe what was it? 32-19 straight up as a favorite, and that was actually like you lost money if you bet $100 on every single one of those games. So
Yeah.
very
Point
rough.
is, I'm going with Boston in 7. I don't think Miami's going to win the series. I really just think the talent disparity is too massive between these teams. But Spoelstra's going to make it very interesting, and I think as a result, I got Boston in 7.
All right. Adam, I will. Well, wait, hold on. Is there? Yes, there is. No, it's not. Yes, there is. No, it's not because that's asking too much. Okay, I was trying to find a Boston in 7. I can't find it right now. We'll find it later. Adam, what of any of this spread, any of the 2 spreads that I listed, total games, any of that, what's a bet you feel like you have to make on this series?
I got to agree. I got to kind of take the Heat with the plus the games spread.
I hate it
because
but I have
I
to
hate
pick
it. Well, like
something.
I just
Yeah.
don't like the Miami Heat. Like I don't like Heat culture. I don't like the whole thing. And obviously, a little biased because my team just lost to the Celtics. But I don't want to mute.
And they lost to the
Eastern
Heat
Conference.
last year.
And they lost to the Heat last year. I don't want to mute an
It's a lot
entire
of
Eastern
losing.
Conference Finals. It is losing's in our DNA, as Brandon Anderson has said.
Hey, I'm there too. I'm there too. Sorry.
Look, but the biggest thing, and Scott, like you touched upon it, the thing with the Celtics team that sort of changes the whole your coach isn't great thing, because you called this out the other day that there's really only like 5 coaches that are good in the league if you look at coach of the year records, because like all these coaches of the years just kind of leave and get fired anyway.
6 of the last 8 coach of the years, including Mike Brown this year, are unemployed.
It's unreal. But the point is with this Celtics team is that all these guys have played together for a consistent period of time, that you actually get the feeling that at certain points in the game, they're just like, yeah, cool, we got this, or yeah, cool, we don't care. And that sort of comes out in how they play. Because at the end of the day, look, this Heat team is old and it's overperforming across the board. Like, yeah, I think there's some stat that they like won the most clutch games, whatever the heck that is, according to NBA.com. But the Celtics team is a better team and should in theory be able to put them away. But the Celtics team consistently plays with their food. And we've seen also Spo do this multiple times, where when the Celtics team gets hot from 3, we saw this in the bubble, we saw this here, we saw this all over the place, is that suddenly they switch to zone, because he's one of the 2 coaches in the league that decides to do that. And then
And it's effective.
it's effective. It's the only team I've seen do it effectively is the Miami Heat. And if the Celtics wanted to launch a barrage of 3s and then suddenly it switches and it's a 29-6 run, I would not be surprised. So I got to take the Heat with the games here. And I don't have it like right in front of me, but like, look, the Celtics in 7 sounds about right to me.
If Boston was fully focused and I could guarantee they would play a full 48 minutes every game, they might sweep. Like, I would pick them probably to win in like 5, but I can't trust this team enough, so I'm going with Miami.
It's just so funny that like everybody, I can see the development over the past 2 years of full time doing this show, and how everybody has slowly but surely come to agree that no matter how good this team is, no matter how much better they are than the other team, no matter what the talent is, no matter what the disparity is, no matter what the situation is, regular season or playoffs, that everybody has come to realize that this team just cannot be trusted. That is it. That's all you need. Right now, if you was with me on the Boston cannot be trusted train for these playoffs, you would have cashed Hawks plus 2.5 at plus money. You would have cashed Philly plus 2.5 at what was it, minus 150, minus 140, something like that. You would have cashed Philly plus 1.5 at plus 175. 3-0. They have underachieved in every single series they played in this playoffs. Every single one, they have underachieved. There's no possible way. And I'm sure that they're just happy. Oh, we're in the conference finals. We made it back to the conference finals. It was a very, very ugly road to get there because you lost a home closeout game in the first series. Then you proceeded to lose game 1 at home. Then you proceeded to tie the series 2-2, come back at home and not even show up to the game.
With no Embiid in game 1, by the way, you didn't mention that. With no Embiid in game
no, and so the MVP of this season was not playing in that game. And so you did close out. You did get 2 very strong wins to put yourself in a situation that won by the odds you should have never been in the first place. There's no possible way that I will lay anything. I wouldn't lay down in a bed with the Boston Celtics. Nothing. There is nothing that you could get me to lay with the Boston Celtics. I will take the plus 2.5. Again, I will take the plus 1.5. And I will sprinkle on the Heat to win the series overall because guess what? Guess what? Everybody expects Boston to win the series. Everybody expects them to win the series. And what happens when you put all your expectations on them? They find a way to let you down. 4-1 to win the series. Plus 160 for 1.5 games. Minus 130 for plus 2.5 games. Honestly, minus 130 bet just feels like it's an absolute steal. And JR's talking about comes to the dark side. Honestly, I would have did this with anybody they were playing that got to the conference finals.
You would have done it
with anybody. It didn't matter who it was. I would have did it with anybody because you can't.
You have them.
They proved the Hawks won 2 games. The Hawks won 2 games.
without DeJounte Murray in one of them.
Without DeJounte Murray
in Boston.
Well, the immovable, it's like the immovable
of
object in the irresistible force here is, don't forget, like, look, you have, as bad as the Celtics are as favorites across the board ATS, but then also if you go game by game, how do you feel then about Miami as a home favorite? Like, are those going to be the times when it's take it the other way?
Well, I got a better question. Is Miami ever going to be a home favorite in this series?
That's a better question.
Like Boston's going to be favored in every game. They're minus 600.
Even
like minus
the
550.
only way that Miami potentially could be a home favorite. And honestly, it would be game 3. It would be game 3, but no, it wouldn't even happen because if Boston goes up 2-0, then everybody's going to assume Boston is about to come in here and sweep because they said, oh, they went up 2-0. Like, so really, there's no situation where Miami's going to be a favorite here.
There you go.
And
I said they win game 3. Like maybe Miami steals one, they're up 2-1 in the series with a convincing game 3 home win. Maybe they'd be favored, but it would take a lot. It would take a lot. Boston's going to be a favorite in every game.
Don't sleep on Miami for game 1 though, because you got the game 7 teams off of game 7 trend is
I didn't say I was going to lay it with the Celtics. I'm just saying
so.
Boston's going to be favored in basically every game of the series.
They will be.
All right, let's talk about because we basically broke down that stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody thinks that this is going to be a long series because we all think that the Heat cover this number. Nobody thinks
shouldn't be, but
short.
I don't trust Boston enough to end it early.
They're not going to end this early. Okay, so let's look at some player props for the series. We have total points: Jason Tatum minus 180, Jimmy Butler plus 190. Jaylen Brown 6-1. I feel like anybody else is not worth mentioning.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, the next closest person after that 6-1 for Jaylen Brown was Bam Adebayo 50-1. I promise you, I would rather take that dollar and put it on Kyle Lowry having a legacy series
at 100-1
than put it on Bam Adebayo. So we have that. Let's see here. We have
just to make sure we're not spending much time on that, right? It's going to be one of the 2 guys.
Yeah,
Tatum just dropped 51 in a game 7. They're not going to let Jaylen Brown.
That's why he's priced 240. Yeah,
I would
minus
actually.
but
180. Oh well,
yeah,
then
it's
there you go.
180.
That's what it should be. Like I think it's his rebound one. He's 240. That's what.
I think I would sprinkle on Jaylen Brown just because of the fact of I don't think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are minus 180 to 6-1 difference. Like I don't think they're that much. Like
I just think it's volume based. The entire last round, everyone was yelling at Jaylen Brown to get more shots after the first quarter. But Tatum's going to lead the team in shots. It's the way it is. I think it's either going to be Tatum or Butler, in my opinion.
I would sprinkle on Brown. I can't not say that's 6-1 is insane for them to be 1A, 1B, and sometimes 1B is 1A. All right. Let's see here. Total threes. Jason Tatum minus 140. Max Strus 3-1. Jaylen Brown 7-1. Marcus Smart plus 950. Malcolm Brogdon 12-1. Duncan Robinson 40-1. Yeah, let's keep going. Gabe Vincent 75-1. Kyle Lowry 100-1.
I'd sprinkle on Brown here personally.
Outside of Kyle Lowry, well,
let's see. What would I do? I would probably. I don't know.
Actually, wait. Why is Max Strus? Why is Strus 3-1, but Vincent 75-1? Are we just assuming Vincent doesn't get any burn?
I don't know. I mean, Strus has the usage and volume was like on Strus because because like originally I was like, ooh, Duncan Robinson. Like, oh wait, you play 15 minutes a game. But I don't know. I was actually I was looking kind of at maybe something on Smart. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Jaylen Brown or Smart. Like I actually might go Smart on this. At around what is it like the plus 950?
I'm not wasting any money on Marcus Smart. Give me Gabe Vincent at 75-1. I just he starts and he can easily have the hot hand this series, and this can be the off series for Strus. Like I'll just blindly take Vincent at 75. That just seems off, but I agree with Scott. I like Jaylen Brown.
I'd rather take Brown at 7-1 here than 6-1 to be the leading scorer. That was kind of my point. I just think that 7-1 doesn't make much sense, especially since you're looking at the leading scorer and who's going to take the most shots on teams. Yeah, Butler's not here, obviously, because he doesn't shoot threes. So if you're telling me Jaylen Brown's main competition for threes is Max Strus, who maybe will end up in like a minute fluctuation situation with Vincent or with Duncan Robinson. We know Spo's not afraid of experimenting with the supporting cast, depending on matchup, and Jason Tatum. But if Tatum has a bad series, I do think it is possible that Brown, kind of maybe boosts his volume a little bit on threes. And I think 7-1 makes sense. By the way, JR, how are we counting the Heat out when all of us took the Heat plus the games in the series?
Wait, that's a whole separate JR though. That's JR Black.
Yeah, JR Black. How are we counting the Heat out? We literally picked it to go to 7 games.
Sounds like you guys are counting it. What? Yeah. Oh, no. So they're saying you guys. No, they're talking to y'all, not talking to me because I took the Heat 4-1. You're saying y'all counted them out because y'all saying they're not going to win. Y'all just said that they're going to cover the line. So he did call you out and say that you're not saying that they're going to win.
Okay, well, first things first, I'm tossing the Bucks series in the garbage because nobody picked Miami to win that series. I don't care what anybody tells you. Nobody had Miami winning that series. So the Heat won. Yeah, okay. That one I got wrong. I did flip relatively early, but yes, I did get that wrong. I have to just acknowledge once again, I have it going 7 games. So saying I'm counting them out is a bit absurd because I literally have it going the distance and I'm taking a home team to win game 7. Like I'm not going to apologize for that. The Milwaukee series, once again, nobody had Miami beating Milwaukee. I don't care what anybody says. That was not a thing.
All right. Let's see here. Last one, and I'll talk about because this is the one that I feel like we can really, really have a discussion. Total rebounds leader. Jason Tatum is minus 240 favorite. After that is Bam Adebayo plus 250. Robert Williams at 10-1. Yeah, I'm not going any further than that. Well, no, I lied. Jimmy Butler at 35-1. Yeah, Jimmy Butler. Al Horford is 25-1.
Adam's guy. Might be,
Like I mean, I'm like. Yeah, like props to Joe DeLara who like kind of turned me on this, but like Al Horford at 25-1 is I like because look, he led like when they did this last year, they led the series the only reason I like him a lot more, he averaged 10 a game in the series last year against the Heat. If he the only reason I like it more than Robert Williams is like that Al Horford's going to be all over the court and is going to have a lot more minutes because you still never know with Robert Williams if something comes up with his knee and things like that. But 25-1 I like that a lot actually. For him.
I'm curious on the rotation and maybe Joe Mazzulla actually making an adjustment, but it just feels like you don't need Al Horford as much in this series because the Heat are not. like you don't need like Horford is there to space the floor, help add it to scoring, veteran impressions. He can sometimes switch on the perimeter, like blah blah. I feel like that Robert Williams and what he was able to give them last year in the limited half one leg he had, that there is a possibility that they say we go all in on defense in this series, and we're just saying that we're going to have somebody inside that's going to be able to go toe to toe with Bam, that's going to be able to help give us some rim protection. I'm very interested to see if there's a flip flop in minutes for Williams and Horford this series.
I mean, he was also hurt. But he averaged six a game in the series last year in 22 minutes over 6 games. I mean, Al Horford missed a game too. I mean, like I forgot that everybody, like no one on the Celtics played the entire series except for Tatum and Brown. Everyone was banged up. But no, so like if they mess with the rotations, absolutely. But based on like some of the current usage, and also I also recognize that Al Horford played out of his mind. In that there was people that were talking about, Al Horford for Finals MVP if this all works out last year. But
solely because of Game 1. But yes,
yeah, right. But look, I mean, that's just a really long number for based on just some of the if things if you don't trust. If you don't trust that Joe Mazzulla is going to actually do and change anything and is kind of going to let them play type of mentality, like I just think I like that 25-1.
All right. Let's go ahead and get into series picks and one lock, one plus money dog type play. I will throw it to Adam first. Give me a lock series pick and some type of dog play.
Then my lock series pick is going to be the Heat in Game 1. Just like can I do that, or does it have to be by game? Because I really
so
fully
can
subscribe.
You so you like the Celtics to win?
Yeah, so like Heat win Game 1, Celtics win series is plus 450, and has become a very reliable money train as a series bet.
Okay.
I mean, teams that are, especially when teams that are coming off a Game 7 are only winning their first games at like 33%. It's a Raheem Palmer stat that I don't have in front of me, but they're not doing that. So put that all together. Heat to win Game 1, Celtics to win the series. I believe it's plus 450.
It's plus 425.
So plus 4. Yeah, then it's down from when I looked at it this morning. There you go.
That's still a very good deal in general. If you're going to be getting basically a minus 500 favorite, you could turn into plus 425. I mean, that's just worth it in itself.
That's what I would do.
Oh,
yeah.
I definitely read the wrong number. Whoops. Series total games, just realized, it's minus 120 for over 5.5, plus 100 for under 5.5. I read the Nuggets Lakers number. And so that was, I guess, your lock or your dog. I don't know.
I think we're just throwing out stuff.
We're throwing them out there, but I would do then if the series bet over 5.5, it's at 120. I don't have it in front of me, just because I came from hospital to here to do this because of my.
I might have mentioned that prop in a second, but yes, over 5.5 is still minus 120.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the over 5.5 games. I think at the end of the day, once again, Boston is talented enough to win the series comfortably, but based on their mental makeup and what we've seen in years past, they really love to give maximum effort at the last possible moment, and they try to win series without fully trying until that point. I think Miami is, of course, going to come out ready to play. We know Spoelstra is a very great game planner and in-game adjuster. I'm taking the over 5.5 games here at minus 120 as my best bet. We just saw it go 7, but you could argue a revenge angle or just the fact that these teams match up somewhat competitively all the time. I'm going to go with the over 5.5.
All right. Wait, what was your dog play?
Oh, well, I don't know. Adam only gave out one play, so
yeah.
Does Adam want to give out Horford rebounds at 25-1?
No, I'll just give that one because like I'm borrowing from 2 minutes because I'm less prepared for it. But like I'll just do. I like that. I think that the other stuff is I think the other thing is stronger. I just don't. I like the Heat in Game 1, so like I'm gonna give that out. The Heat Game 1 Celtics series play will be mine.
So it's great. It's fine because I have a long list that I can give out.
Good.
So let's go here. For my series lock, it was so easy. Come on, guys. Like, are we or not wasting minus 130? Heat plus 2.5 games. They are winning 2 games in this series. Okay.
What was the price on that again?
Minus 130.
Okay.
I will series ladder that as far as I can go. So I will take the Miami Heat in plus 160 for plus 1.5 games. I will take them at 4-1 to win the series. I won't even get greedy and start talking about minus numbers. And no, we're just very baseline there. So minus 130, plus 160, 4-1. Easy. Locked in. I agree with you on the over 5.5 games. And because I'm a DGen and we'll see if Jason Tatum can do it. But I always think that this is in contention with Jimmy Butler. So 30-1. Will there be a buzzer beater in the series? Yes.
Okay.
Other than that, Adam, appreciate you coming on to the show today. Anything else for the people before we get up out of here?
Nah, I just had a baby, so I'm on 1 hour sleep, man. I'm just happy to be here.
Congratulations
again, by the way.
Thanks, guys.
And Scott, anything else for the people?
Not really. I think for my dog for the show, I actually do like that Horford play a lot at 25-1. I'm probably going to take that. He had 10. He averaged 10 last year. He's going to play a bunch of minutes. It is what it is. So that's probably going to be where my long shot prop will go. But looking forward to the Eastern Conference Finals and, of course, the Western Conference Finals, which I previewed with Delonte a couple days ago. Basketball should be fun. I like how they're alternating one game every day. So we constantly have action for the next week or two. Should be fun. But yeah, besides that, I got a bunch of other podcasts. The NFL gambling podcast, the tennis gambling podcast, and I know that later this week, I believe Terrell and I are bringing back another installment for season 2.
Yep, WNBA gambling podcast will
Nice.
be streamed. We'll probably simultaneously stream on the WNBA feed and the NBA feed. But yes, 100%.
I didn't know we had a WNBA feed. Is that in the budget?
I think I have access to a WNBA feed, so we will try to make sure.
I didn't know it existed.
We will make sure the one of us that actually does all the technical stuff has the access to the feed.
Yeah.
So, all right. Other than that, I have to go. So, if you're not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you subscribe at SGPN NBA on Twitter, NBA Gambling Podcast on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Absolutely. Make sure you leave a review. Make sure you like the video. Go like the video. If you're listening on here, go look at the comments and then like the video. And I don't have to ask people what they're betting for the series because I know everybody's joining us in betting Miami. I'm in Miami and we're fading the Celtics. 3-0, undefeated this year when we fade them on the spread. So easy enough. I have nothing else to say, nothing else to do. No other way of ending the podcast. Just got to end it like this. We are out of here.